When I married Rachel, I told myself I was building something stronger the second time around. I wanted to believe that love, once broken, could be rebuilt if two people wanted it enough. We were both carrying children from failed marriages, both dragging invisible luggage up the same steps of a new house. She had Logan, 16, and Abby, 14. I had Lily, 10, and Noah, 8. For kids, one house, a single fragile idea of family. At first, I tried to be optimistic. Rachel called it a fresh start. The real estate agent called it a forever home. I called it a chance to make things right. The house itself was large enough to hide tension. For bedrooms, an open kitchen, a backyard where laughter could echo if we were lucky. I spent weekends fixing it, replacing cabinet handles, sanding down the deck, painting over the nicotine yellow walls the previous owners had left behind. I worked until my palms split, until Rachel called me inside for dinner and said, "You don't have to do all this." But I did, because work was the only way I knew how to belong. From the beginning, I made every effort to include her children. I bought 4 identical mugs for Saturday cocoa nights, for new sets of towels for the upstairs bathroom, for chairs around the fire pit. I wanted symmetry, the illusion of equality. It didn't last long. Logan didn't look at me when I spoke. He was already halfway out of boyhood, lost in that strange arrogance teenage boys mistake for independence. When I asked about school, he grunted. When I asked about his friends, he shrugged. His earbuds were always in, his eyes glued to the glowing world inside his phone. A world where I didn't exist. Abby was different, sharper. She tested boundaries like it was her sport. She smiled sweetly at Rachel, but with me, she wielded silence like a blade. When she spoke, her words were measured, polite enough to pass, but heavy with contempt. One evening, as we carried groceries in from the car, I asked Logan to take the heavier bags. He didn't even turn around. "You're not my dad," he said. Flat, unbothered, walking away with a bag of chips and a soda in his hand. Rachel heard it. She didn't say anything, just gave me that tired look that mothers give when they've run out of excuses. Abby wasn't far behind him. She'd scatter makeup wipes and clothes across the bathroom floor, leave half-empty soda cans on the stairs. When I asked her to clean it, she would look up and say, "Mom didn't ask me to." Those words, "Mom didn't ask me to," carried more venom than she realized. They meant, "You don't matter. Your rules aren't real here." Rachel's answer was always the same. "They're adjusting," she'd say, as if disrespect was a phase, something they would grow out of if I just waited quietly enough. I wanted to believe her. I really did, so I kept giving. I took them out to dinner, paid for trips to the movies, sat through 2-hour soccer games for a boy who barely acknowledged me. I learned Abby's favorite cereal, her favorite color, the kind of sneakers she wanted for school. I thought kindness might build a bridge where authority couldn't. But kindness without respect turns into something ugly. It becomes permission. Dinner became my nightly test. The table would start full, 4 kids, 2 adults, and always end with me talking to myself. Logan and Abby would drift away first, plates half finished, retreating upstairs with excuses about homework. Rachel would let them go. "At least they're eating," she'd say, forcing a smile. Meanwhile, Lily and Noah sat quietly, watching, confused. They followed rules that didn't apply to the others. When they spoke out of turn, I corrected them. When Logan did, Rachel said nothing. My kids started to notice. One night, Noah whispered after dinner, "Why doesn't Logan have to help with dishes?" I had no answer that wouldn't break something deeper. Because the truth was simple. I was being tolerated, not respected. I had stepped into their lives as a provider, not as a father. And every time Rachel refused to enforce my words, she confirmed it. The house began to tilt. Not visibly, not yet. But I could feel it in the smallest moments. The silence after I spoke. The way Rachel's children addressed her directly when I asked a question. The flicker of discomfort in Lily's eyes when she saw her step-siblings dismiss me. The air in the house thickened with unspoken things. Sundays were the worst. Family movie nights, Rachel called them. I'd set everything up. Popcorn, blankets, the projector. I'd invite everyone down. Logan would appear, slouching in the doorway, eyes rolling. Abby would arrive 10 minutes late, scrolling through her phone. Rachel would laugh awkwardly, trying to glue us together with small talk. By the second half of the film, they were gone. Up the stairs, door closed, leaving only the soft hum of their music bleeding through the walls. Rachel would touch my arm and say, "They'll come around." But the tone in her voice had shifted. It wasn't reassurance anymore. It was resignation. And still, I stayed patient. I told myself 1,000 little lies. They're just kids. They'll mature, you can't force respect. Lies that sounded like hope. The real fracture came the night Rachel invited her ex-husband over, their father. It was Abby's birthday. I told myself it was fine, that it was right for him to be there. But when he arrived, smiling, confident, carrying a gift wrapped too perfectly, the energy in the room changed. The kids lit up like Christmas lights. Logan laughed with him, full and genuine in a way I'd never seen. Abby sat beside him, clinging to his every word. I stood there, invisible, holding the cake I'd baked with my own hands. When the candles were blown out, Abby said, "Dad, this cake's amazing. Did you make it?" Her father grinned. "I wish," he said, "but that looks like your mom's style." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Rachel said nothing, just smiled faintly, eyes on the table. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, I stood in the dark kitchen staring at the half-eaten cake. I scraped the leftover frosting into the trash, each motion deliberate, slow, quiet. That was the first time I thought, maybe they need me only for what I provide. It wasn't about the groceries or the repairs or the bills. It was about the silence that followed every effort I made. The lack of acknowledgement. The way Rachel's eyes shifted when the kids defied me. That flicker of guilt mixed with fear, as though defending me would somehow push them further away. Respect, I realized, wasn't something you could earn in that house. It was something rationed, controlled, doled out in crumbs, and I was starving for it. By the time winter came, the hierarchy was complete. Logan and Abby answered only to Rachel. Lily and Noah obeyed everyone. And me, I was the man who kept the lights on. Every night, I'd pass their rooms on my way to bed. I'd see the glow of screens under doors, hear laughter that stopped the moment my footsteps neared. I'd stand there for a second, waiting to feel like part of something. Instead, I felt like an intruder in a home I had built. The cracks had widened, though no one else seemed to hear them. And somewhere beneath the noise of that blended family, the sighs, the footsteps, the muffled music, a quiet truth had begged *N to take shape. I wasn't the head of this household. I was a guest who paid rent. The decline didn't come in explosions. Came in sighs, in slammed doors, in Rachel's quiet apologies that sounded more like excuses. Months passed, and what began as small acts of disrespect evolved into open defiance. I told myself to endure, that maybe, with time, Logan and Abby would grow tired of their rebellion. That Rachel would eventually see how her silence was shaping our home into something cold. But I was wrong. Every concession I made only fed their contempt. The first real crack came one Sunday morning. I was in the garage with Noah, helping him build a wooden birdhouse for a school project. The sunlight cut through the open door in thin lines, dust floating like tiny ghosts in the air. Lily sat on the steps, watching us, her sketchbook open on her lap. It was quiet, peaceful. Then Logan appeared, 16 and full of that brittle confidence boys mistake for strength. He picked up Noah's tablet from the workbench, flipped it in his hands. "Be careful with that," I said. "It's your sister's school tablet." He smirked. "Relax, old man." Before I could move, the tablet slipped, or maybe he threw it. I'll never know for sure, and hit the concrete floor with a crack that made all three of us flinch. The screen shattered, a web of broken glass spreading like frost. Noah froze, his face crumpled. Lily gasped, whispering, "Logan, why'd you?" But Logan just laughed. "Guess you shouldn't leave your stuff out." When I stepped forward, my voice came out lower than I expected. "Pick it up." He looked at me, eyes full of challenge, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You're not my dad," he said. That same poisoned phrase he'd used before. You don't tell me what to do. Something inside me hardened then. Not rage, something colder. Clarity. I looked at Noah, who had begged *N to cry silently, shoulders trembling. I saw Lily clutching her sketchbook like a shield. And I understood, in that moment, what they were learning from this house. That disrespect was allowed as long as it came from the right bloodline. Rachel came out when she heard the noise. She saw the broken tablet, saw Logan's smirk, and asked, "What happened?" "He broke it," Lily said. "On purpose." Rachel frowned, tired already. "Logan, apologize." He rolled his eyes. "I didn't mean to." It was enough for her. She turned to me, touching my arm lightly, whispering, "Let it go, Ethan. He's just a teenager." I didn't answer, but something in me finally snapped into focus. That night, I lay awake beside her, listening to the soft rhythm of her breathing. I thought about all the times I'd chosen peace over principle, all the ways I had let her silence dictate my worth. And I realized patience had turned into permission. The next morning, I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table long before anyone else was awake. The house was still, filled with the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ghosts of unspoken things. I opened my laptop, logged into every account I owned, the ones that paid for phones, Wi-Fi, streaming services, music subscriptions, games, and bills. My name was everywhere, holding the structure of this family together. And that morning, I began cutting the strings. One by one, I removed Logan and Abby from every plan. The phone line gone. The Wi-Fi password changed. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon canceled or locked. Every automatic renewal that made their lives easy stopped existing. When Rachel came downstairs, I was still at the table, sipping coffee, calm as still water. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Taking responsibility," I said. She frowned, confused. "For what?" "For the lesson I should have taught months ago." By the time Logan woke up, the storm had *N. He stomped downstairs, holding his phone like a dead thing. "What the hell? My service is off." Abby followed, already irritated. "The Wi-Fi's down again. Can you fix it?" I didn't look up from my coffee. "No, it's not broken." They stared. Logan's voice rose. "Then what?" "I turned it off," I said simply. "Everything under my name. Phones, Wi-Fi, accounts. All of it." Rachel blinked. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" I looked at each of them, steady. My stepkids said I had no right to teach them. So I cut off their phones, their Wi-Fi, and removed everything under my name. Logan laughed, thinking it was a bluff. "You can't do that." "I just did." Abby's eyes widened. "That's not fair. Neither is living in a house and spitting on the man who pays for it." Rachel's voice cracked. "At least keep the lights on." I stood up slowly. "I will. For Lily and Noah." Then I turned off my phone. The silence that followed was heavier than shouting. Logan stormed upstairs, slamming his door so hard the frame shook. Abby started to cry, then fled to her room. Rachel just stood there, stunned, her mouth opening and closing like she was searching for words that wouldn't come. When I spoke again, my voice was calm. "If they want to live here, they live by the same rules as everyone else. Respect isn't negotiable." She whispered, "You're overreacting." "Maybe," I said, "but I'd rather overreact once than keep dying by degrees." By evening, the house had become a battlefield of quiet. Logan came down to the kitchen twice, trying to use charm first, anger later. Neither worked. He demanded I reconnect his phone, said he needed it for school. I told him school existed before phones did. Abby sat at the table, eyes red, muttering that I was ruining everything. Rachel hovered near the stove, torn between defending me and protecting her children. She chose silence again. That night, I packed Logan and Abby's belongings. Clothes, school bags, electronics, and left them neatly stacked in the foyer. When Rachel saw, her face went pale. "What are you doing?" "They're going to stay with their father for a while," I said. Her voice trembled. "You can't just send them away." "I can. And I have." She stepped closer, pleading now. Ethan, please. They're kids. They're old enough to understand cause and effect. When she realized I wasn't bluffing, she broke. You're punishing them for not loving you. I met her eyes. No. I'm holding them accountable for not respecting anyone. That night I changed the locks. I sent one final message to their biological father, Brian. I told him his children would be waiting for him in the morning. When his car pulled up at dawn, Rachel stood beside me on the porch, tears streaking her face. Logan refused to look at me. Abby cried as she got into the car. I didn't move. I didn't say goodbye. As the car disappeared down the street, Rachel turned to me. You just tore this family apart. I looked at her, exhausted. No, Rachel. I stopped pretending it was one. Then I went inside, poured myself a cup of cold coffee, and sat in the quiet house that finally felt honest. For the first time in years, there was no shouting, no slammed doors. Lily and Noah came downstairs, hesitant, uncertain. Lily asked, "Are they coming back?" I didn't answer. I just pulled her close and said softly, "It's going to be peaceful for a while." And in that stillness, I realized something cruel but true. Sometimes love isn't what saves a home. Boundaries do. That morning, I looked around at the silence I had bought with consequence and wondered, not for the first time, if I had finally done the right thing, or simply the inevitable. When the door closed behind Logan and Abby, the house seemed to inhale. No sound, no motion, only stillness. Like the pause after a long argument when everyone realizes there's nothing left to say. Rachel stood at the window, motionless, her reflection caught in the glass. Her voice came small, almost childlike. "They're still my kids." "I know," I said. Her next words trembled. "But you made them feel unwanted." I didn't answer because the truth was heavier than comfort. They were unwanted, at least by the version of me that had begged for scraps of respect. That first week was a strange kind of peace. The mornings were quiet, the air lighter. Lily laughed again. An unfamiliar sound, quick and bright, like something that had been locked away. Noah started doing his homework at the kitchen table instead of hiding in his room. Even Rachel, for all her anger, seemed calmer. She moved slower, spoke softer. At night, after the kids slept, we talked in half sentences. She asked if I regretted it. I said no. What I didn't tell her was that I finally slept through the night for the first time in years. But silence has a price. By the fourth day, the absence began to hum beneath everything. Their rooms looked staged. Beds made too neatly, chargers still plugged into outlets that would never buzz again. I passed by those doors and felt an ache that surprised me. I had wanted them gone, but I hadn't wanted the void. Rachel noticed my glances. "You miss them," she said one evening. "I miss what I thought they could be." Her eyes watered, but she didn't argue. Then came the calls. Brian's voice on the other end. Slow, resentful, heavy with years of avoidance. "They're not doing great," he said. "They keep asking when they can come home." "Home," I repeated. "You mean your place." He sighed. "You know what I mean." I didn't. Not anymore. According to him, Logan refused to follow rules there either. Abby cried constantly. They missed their friends, their rooms, their routines. They blamed me for everything. I listened quietly, unmoved at first. But that night, I caught Lily whispering to Noah through the crack of her door, "Do you think they hate us now?" It hit me harder than any insult ever had. My kids had learned to feel guilty for other people's choices. So I called a family meeting the next morning. The four of us sat at the kitchen table, me, Rachel, Lily, and Noah. The sunlight spilled across the surface like a spotlight. "They might come back," I said. "But things will be different." Rachel looked up sharply. "You're serious?" "I'm always serious when it costs me something." That afternoon, Brian called again. His tone had softened. Exhaustion does that to a man. "They want to come home," he said simply. "They've realized they pushed too far." I said nothing for a while, staring at the coffee going cold in my hands. Then I told him, "If they return, it'll be under new terms. Non-negotiable." He agreed too quickly. probably relieved to hand the problem back. 2 days later, they arrived. Rachel waited on the porch, nervous. I stood beside her, expressionless. The car door opened, and for a moment I saw them as children again. Logan taller but smaller somehow, Abby clutching her backpack like armor. Their faces carried something new, fear. Rachel hugged them first. I didn't move. When they turned to me, I said quietly, "Inside." We sat in the living room. No shouting, no tears. Just the thick tension of consequence. "I'm going to say this once," I began. "Respect isn't about DNA. It's the cost of living under this roof." Logan swallowed hard. "We're sorry." Abby's voice broke. "We didn't mean." "You meant every word," I said. "You just didn't like what followed." Rachel shifted beside me, her hands clenched. "Ethan." I raised a hand. "They need to hear it." I told them about what had changed while they were gone. The rules written on paper now, not spoken. Curfews, chores, shared responsibilities, consequences. "You will speak to me with the same respect you give your mother. You'll help, contribute, be present. Disrespect once, and the door opens again, but not for return." Abby nodded quickly, tears streaking her face. Logan sat rigid, staring at the floor. For the first time, he didn't argue. Maybe Brian had shown him what absence looked like. Maybe he finally understood that comfort isn't free. When it was over, Rachel exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. She whispered, "Thank you." I didn't know if she meant for the chance or for the warning. That evening, the house felt different, cautious. Everyone moved quietly, as if afraid to disturb the new balance. I watched them from the kitchen doorway, Rachel chopping vegetables, Abby setting the table, Logan helping Noah carry plates. Ordinary acts, but they felt miraculous. After dinner, I found Logan outside on the porch. He stood by the railing, looking out into the dark yard. "Do you hate me?" he asked without turning. "I don't," I said, "but I stopped protecting you from what you earned." He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. "Dad." He stopped himself, corrected softly. "Ethan." I let him. Titles mean less than effort. Later, Rachel joined me in the living room. "Maybe you were right," she said. "Maybe they needed to fall. Maybe we all did." That night, for the first time since the chaos began, the house slept. Doors stayed open. No muffled music, no slamming. Just breathing, steady, synchronized, human. Still, beneath the peace, I felt unease. A question kept circling. Was this forgiveness or fear? Had they truly changed? Or were they simply learning how to survive under my rules? A week later, the answer began to show itself in small things. Abby came into the kitchen after school and said, "Thank you for dinner last night." The words sounded strange in her mouth, like a language she was relearning. Logan asked if I needed help mowing the lawn. I almost said no out of habit, but then I handed him the gloves. Each small gesture felt fragile but real. Even Rachel began to shift. She started echoing my rules instead of softening them, reminding her kids to help, to listen. Maybe she'd realized that love without structure had been eating her alive. One evening, after everyone went to bed, I stood in the hallway listening to the faint rhythm of their breathing. For months that sound had been drowned out by arguments. Now it was the heartbeat of a home trying to heal. But peace doesn't erase memory. I still saw flashes. The look on Noah's face when his tablet broke. Lily's quiet confusion as respect vanished around her. I couldn't forget. Maybe I shouldn't. Some lessons are written in scars. Rachel found me there, leaning against the wall. "You can relax now," she whispered. "I don't think I can," I said. "Not completely. Then just rest." She took my hand, and for a moment the distance between us seemed smaller. We stood in the dark like survivors of a quiet war, both unsure if we'd won or merely stopped fighting. I don't know if forgiveness ever really arrived. But something else did, order, maybe even grace. And in that order, respect began to root itself again, fragile but alive. Months passed. The house no longer trembled under slammed doors or whispered contempt. Peace, thin but persistent, settled over us like morning fog. Some days it felt fragile, one wrong word away from vanishing, but it was real enough to breathe in. I noticed it first in silence. The good kind. The kind that comes after forgiveness has been attempted, even if not achieved. Rachel hummed while making breakfast. Lily read aloud to Noah without fear of mockery. Even Logan's footsteps changed. They no longer carried defiance, only weight. I learned to recognize the difference. Every healing begins in small exchanges. A nod instead of an argument. A thank you muttered without sarcasm. A chore finished without being asked. These were our miracles, ordinary but necessary. One Saturday morning, I found Logan in the garage. He was struggling with the lawnmower, sleeves rolled up, grease on his hands. When he saw me, he straightened as if expecting a rebuke. "It won't start," he said. "Choke's closed," I answered, leaning over. He watched as I pulled the cord and the engine coughed alive. For a second his face lit up, pure, unguarded. "Thanks," he said. 2 syllables, but they carried more weight than any apology. Abby took longer. She carried guilt differently, quiet, internal, afraid to be seen. I'd catch her wiping the counter after dinner, pretending it needed another pass, avoiding my eyes. One night, while driving her to volleyball practice, she whispered, "I didn't mean it before." The stuff I said. "I know," I replied. "I just wanted Mom to pick me." I glanced at her profile lit by passing streetlights. "She shouldn't have made you feel you had to." She nodded, biting her lip, and that was the first honest moment between us. Rachel watched all of it unfold with the caution of someone who'd already lost too much. Some nights she'd curl beside me, her head on my shoulder, whispering, "It's working, isn't it?" "Maybe," I'd say. "Or maybe we're just learning to be quieter about the pain." She'd smile sadly. Quiet is still better than war. The change in my own children was the sharpest mirror. Lily's laughter returned in full color. Noah stopped asking who made the rules. They started treating Logan and Abby not as enemies but as older siblings again. Children forgive faster than adults. Maybe they're wiser for it. I began rebuilding, not as a savior, not even as a father, but as a man determined to make structure out of chaos. Bills got paid on time. Chores rotated evenly. Every Sunday we ate dinner together, no phones, no excuses. The first few weeks were awkward, conversation forced, like a meeting of strangers. But routine has gravity. Slowly it pulled us together. One night, Logan asked if I could help him study for a math exam. It was late, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. We sat at the table, papers spread out, and for an hour he listened, really listened. When we finished, he said, "You make it sound easier than it is." "That's because I've failed enough times to know where the traps are." He grinned. "Guess that makes you useful after all." We both laughed, awkward but genuine. Abby changed too. She started coming to me for rides, small talk about music, nothing important. But one evening she handed me a folded note before getting out of the car. Later I opened it. 3 words in neat handwriting. "Thank you anyway." I kept it in my wallet. Rachel's transformation was slower. She had lived for years between loyalty and denial, and that kind of guilt doesn't wash off easily. Sometimes I'd find her sitting on the back porch after everyone slept, eyes fixed on the dark yard. "I let them treat you that way," she said once. "I thought if I defended you, I'd lose them." "You almost did both," I told her. She nodded. "I know." Forgiveness, when it came, didn't announce itself. It arrived in routines too ordinary to notice. Shared breakfasts, soft jokes, the smell of coffee and pancakes replacing the tension that used to greet each morning. The house began to feel like a single heartbeat again. Still, I never forgot. Couldn't. There are things words cannot undo. The echo of "you're not my dad." The look in Rachel's eyes when she didn't defend me. Those memories lived in the corners of the house, quiet witnesses to what had nearly collapsed us. One evening, months later, we gathered around the fire pit I'd built the first summer. The air was cool, the flames reflecting in their faces. Logan roasted marshmallows with Noah. Abby leaned on Rachel's shoulder. Lily sketched the scene in her notebook. It should have been perfect. Yet I sat there wondering if they truly saw me now, or only the man who enforced peace. Rachel noticed my silence. "You're far away," she said softly. "Just thinking." "About what?" "Whether boundaries and love can coexist without one K asterisk ling the other." She took my hand. "Maybe that's what family is, keeping both alive." I wanted to believe her. I still do. Later that night, after everyone had gone inside, I stayed by the dying fire. The embers glowed faintly, stubborn, refusing to go dark. I thought about everything that had been burned away. The arrogance, the entitlement, the illusion that patience alone could heal a house. What remained was smaller, simpler, but honest. Respect, even fragile, is a kind of warmth. Now, when I wake before dawn, I walk through quiet rooms that no longer feel like battlegrounds. I see backpacks lined by the door, shoes paired neatly, signs of cooperation that once seemed impossible. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror and almost recognize the man staring back. Do I think I was right? I don't know. Maybe necessity isn't the same as righteousness. Maybe I just ran out of ways to be ignored. But I do know this. The moment I stopped begging for acceptance, the house began to breathe again. Logan still calls me Ethan, not Dad, and that's fine. Abby hugs me before leaving for school, quick but real. Rachel trusts my silence now instead of fearing it. And Lily and Noah, my constants, laugh without glancing at the others for permission. That's enough. People talk about redemption like it's a sunrise. I think it's more like twilight, half light, half shadow, a space where mistakes and mercy coexist. That's where I live now, somewhere between regret and relief. Every night, before I turn off the lights, I whisper a quiet truth to the dark house. Peace is not forgiveness. It's the refusal to keep bleeding. And so I ask you, whoever listens to this confession, was I wrong to draw the line so sharply? Was I cruel for demanding respect before affection? Or was that the only way left to prove that love, without boundaries, becomes servitude? Would you have endured it longer, or would you have done what I did? Turn off the noise, face the silence, and rebuild from the ruins? Tell me, because even now, in the calm I fought for, I still wonder whether I chose justice, or simply survival.